Hello, and welcome back to Voice Notes. I can't believe I made it this far in this live journal series. I welcome you again for another session. Hope that all is well with you and that you are doing quite fine. Thanks for joining in once again. For today's topic, I'm going to talk about loneliness and solitude. A more subdued topic, but it's important, especially when working towards a resolute mind. So, let's begin. Let's start with loneliness. I'm pretty sure that everyone under the sun had at some point felt or experienced what it is like to be lonely. Loneliness is such a shared experience, yet it is very rarely talked about in much detail. When one thinks about loneliness, a funny feeling is stirred up inside of him. It is very much an unpleasant feeling. Loneliness is a state of mind, just as happiness or even sadness. Let's go deeper. When one is lonely, he may feel detached from something, someone, or even perhaps from some idea. There is a detachment from or loss of something that was previously there. He appreciates that something is missing. He may not know what it is exactly at the time, but he takes note that something is no longer there that was previously there. Loneliness speaks to void in one's life. But I go back to the thought that it is a state of mind. The mind convinces him that he is indeed lonely, and his body reacts to somehow fill this void. Now, this is what I describe loneliness to be. Let's talk about solitude. How is solitude different to loneliness? Think about it. Both loneliness and solitude may look the same to the physical eyes. What you may see is someone who is single and alone. You do not see any other company, just a company of one, no one else. Just by watching, one may think that just because one sits by himself, he must be lonely. Very rarely one thinks about solitude. So, what is the difference exactly? There is a difference, but before I note this difference, it is important to say from the very beginning that before one enters into his state of solitude, he must first go through a period of loneliness. This is true. When one first enters into isolation, it is natural to feel and to be detached from his social circles and natural motions of living. In fact, it is a struggle to reach a calm point in the journey of detachment when you already feel some loss, with loss of contacts and general exchanges. This is difficult, especially if you're one for making social connections. But in the journey of some lives, it is crucial to walk a path of solitude, a very lonely path. Some have no choice. This path leads them through personal development towards discovery of self. It is work for them to walk paths that no one else has created for them. Self-discovery is a journey and quite the task in and of itself. It is the only path to walk. Take any other path and you are bound to meet an ending list of blocks and impossible possibilities. So, now I go on to talk about this difference. What is the difference between loneliness and solitude? I answer. The answer is simple. I go back to the loneliness description where it says that there is some lack or void of something. Let me take it further to note that it is a lack or void of some presence. When one loses a sense of a presence, he feels lonely. Now, with solitude, this is different. For though one may be seemingly alone, he senses and feels not the lack, but the presence of the presence, if that makes any sense. He no longer feels a void, for he can now witness a presence. He does not feel it at first, but when he comes into knowing that some presence is there, he moves from a state of loneliness to one of solitude. He's no longer alone. It is this sensitivity to this presence that lets him know that he has indeed moved from a state of loneliness to one of solitude. Now, this is important, very important, because it is in this state of solitude the teacher arrives. In this state, one has access to a library of knowledge in silence. The teacher inside of him begins to teach, and now he's no longer alone, but instead he has joined an online class, a class of other learners, and the teacher is there to guide him along his journey towards discovering the self. This is important. It is important to appreciate being alone, for the world of vastness is right there waiting and willing to open up its doors of wisdom. It is not a time to feel bad about being single. It is a time to enjoy being in a state of reflection and examination of self. It is a very useful time for learning and for minute and consistent improvements with the self towards the end of the self, for which there is no end. Both loneliness and solitude are important in this life project. For some, there is no other choice. I share these thoughts with you today, for I have found resolve in accepting my quiet state and appreciate being chosen to journey along a path that most will just not choose to go. If by chance you indeed live the path of solitude, being single and alone, then I encourage you to just enjoy your life's journey and lifelong learning. It is different, but this difference does not take away the joy of living life to the fullest either way. And I rest my note here. Thanks for listening once again, and I look forward to seeing you until next time. Adios!